Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday afternoon on Gulfstream today. And well, there's a lot of action today, and we've already had a lot of action so far this afternoon. Of course, this morning, a lot of final breezes in prep for the Florida Derby next weekend. Acacia, we had horses working really all over the place. Gulfstream, Gulfstream Park West, Palm Meadows, you name it, they were working. And on top of that, of course, lots of action overseas in Dubai.
And as you said, just a busy morning already. I know you were at Gulfstream Park West checking out Gunavera with Antonio Sano, and I was out this morning, 3 Rules and Impressive Edge, and got to catch up with Jose Pinchin and Dale Romans, respectively. So really gearing up for the next week Florida Derby. But talk about Dubai World Cup. The USA has been well represented so far today. We did just see Mind Your Biscuits winning the Golden Shaheen. And
Mind Your Biscuits, of course, transferred over officially to Chad Summers last time out in the Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint. That was a grade 3, finished second here locally. And Chad even saying, you know, this is just, we just wanted to get him a race under his belt after his grade 1 victory on the West Coast. So it looked like he was primed and ready to go. He really blew the field away today. It was very, very impressive. And Dubai on the big stage, not a bad place to get your first win as a trainer.
No, not at all. That's just what I was going to say. And just seeing the video and seeing Chad cheering, congratulations to all of the connections. But lots more to come from Dubai. We'll go all the way through the Dubai World Cup. You can watch it here at Gulfstream and on ExpressBet as well. 12:45 will be the Dubai World Cup, and we'll be well represented there too. Of course, several of the Pegasus World Cup horses going to be there, including Arrogate, Keen Ice, Neolithic. We'll also see Gunrunner.
Yes, and we were just walking out here, and I saw Mike Smith getting an interview in the Juddmonte colors, so very exciting to see Arrogate and the other contenders here going from Pegasus World Cup to the Dubai World Cup, and also Long on Value, a huge performance from him in the Alquaz. I wanted to bet him. You beat me to the punch. I forgot to bet him, but he's one of my favorite horses.
So I woke up at 5:30 this morning to go to the barn, and I was laying in bed, and I put in all my bets for Dubai.
Let's just marry them together.
That was the first thing I did before coffee even, which is a big deal.
That is a huge deal. Yeah. I definitely can't do anything before coffee. But so really excited to get to the Dubai World Cup. Once again, 12:45 is the post time, and we will be showing it here at Gulfstream Park. But wanted to backtrack quickly and talk about yesterday afternoon. We did have a couple of Beat the Expert winners. And Acacia, you actually did a great job too. But you got on the bad end, the wrong end of a couple of head bobs there.
I really did. I had 5 winners, which I think is the best that I've done. And I guess that's what happens when you're a chalk-eating weasel on a bit of a chalky day. But there were 3 people with 6 winners. So congratulations to Don Cavello, Ken Hall, and Paul Lucan. And yes, I think the last race where my top horse, More Alex, just again had a little bit of a trouble with the break, missed the photo. But all in all, congratulations. You will be receiving your Beat the Expert polos.
It's okay to be a chalk-eating weasel on Beat the Expert Day because a win is a win.
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I've had days where I've had 1 win and they've been 8-5, so you have to do it sometimes, unfortunately. But we'll take a look at today's card. Wanted to show you our featured wagers, and we have some really nice guarantees. In race 1 does kick off the 50-cent early pick 5. That's races 1 through 5. Moving to the second race, that Super High 5 does start again. In the Super High 5, you do need 7 or more betting interests, and we have a carryover in there just over $3,500. And looking towards the 6th race on the card, that starts the ever popular middle pick 4. That is a 50-cent based wager. Now we get to the guarantees. Race 8 starts the 20-cent Rainbow 6, and we have a $1.5 million guarantee today. I think it's going to easily surpass that as a great betting card today. And we obviously have had a very nice carryover in the past couple of days. So $1.5 million guarantee in the pick 6. Late pick 5 is a $200,000 guarantee, and that late pick 4 is $250,000. And it's a beautiful day. We did have some rain throughout the area this morning, but the sun is out. We are fast and firm on the turf today for these 13 races. 12:35 p.m. first post. So we'll get straight to it. We've got a lot of ground to cover with these 13 races. Acacia, start us off with your pick 5 ticket.
We'll give you a look at the ticket. I believe I do have a single in the early pick 5. Yep, I'm going to single in the 5th race today, hopefully make it to the last leg. I'm using 3 horses to kick things off in here, actually trying to beat the big favorite in True Pleasure with Scotland Bay, and also backing myself up with Did Not Mean It. 3 horses in the 2nd as well, just 2 in the 3rd. Spreading in the 4th race, I thought you wanted some coverage in that maiden claiming, and then I will single on 2 Exaggerates in the 5th race. It's a small field. There are some nice runners in there. I just thought he's definitely the horse to beat, trying to keep it affordable for $36.
He definitely looks the goods in there. I think you have the right single in the early pick 5. We'll head out to the main track at 6 furlongs for the state bred starter allowance optional claimer, and of course this kicking off the early pick 5. And the 2 True Pleasure will obviously take a lot of money. This is a horse who a couple starts back was on the dirt, did sprint, and the 2 that finished in front of her, well, they went on to win their next starts in pretty good fashion, one of them being Mia Tori, who came back to win Sunshine Million Distaff.
She did, and she received a 91 Beyer speed figure for that performance in the Distaff. It was a really nice race, and then Calling Me Home, the 2nd place finisher, came back to win with a 70 Beyer speed figure, and we also saw Love Flute come out of that race. So actually 3 next out winners. It was a strong race. She finished 3rd in there, but her last win was on a muddy track. They've tried her on the turf a couple of times. They've tried going lawn. They've tried sprinting. It looks like they just haven't really been able to find the right spot for her. So I certainly respect her. I just knew that she would be a short price, especially with the connection. So I thought this was a little bit of a guess, and it's funny, you actually ended up on the same horse that I did, but I thought that this race is going to set up perfectly for Scotland Bay with the amount of speed to the outside, especially with the other Jorge Navarro runner and Killing Them Softly. Expect speed from First Distinction as well.
I saw it the same way. I saw, well, First Distinction towards the outside, especially with Nikki Figueroa in the saddle, getting that 7-pound weight allowance, and then you have Killing Them Softly, who her MO is usually to go to the lead. They'll probably duel on the front end. Maybe even the 3 Ayana will show some early interest here. So I thought Scotland Bay, well posted on the rail, should really just sit the trip, and she knows how to win. She's a 5-time winner, although just 2 of them came here at Gulfstream. I think she definitely has the credentials in order to win, so I like it. You and I both shopping for a little bit of a price, an alternative to beat the favorite in the opener. As we get to the 2nd race, a maiden $12,500 race, 6 furlongs on the main track. And talking about favorites, well, the 1, Nico's on the Run, 7-5 on the morning line.
And this horse will be a short price, and I just landed on him. I probably should have won that race last time out, so I can understand maybe trying to look elsewhere. I just didn't really trust some of the other alternatives in the 2 Ricky Griffith runners in Cool as Ice and Past the Stars. I do respect both of them, and I'll use the old 1, 2, 3 on the pick 5. But looking at Nico's on the Run, I expect him to send from the rail. He did show a much improved performance last time out with the class relief.
He did, and it was a class relief, and I also thought it had to do with the rail post position, and I actually thought his hand was a little bit forced from the rail post, and he might be caught in the same situation here today, and I just cannot ever land on 7-5 favorites in a maiden 12,500 race, and he very well could win. He could wire, but I actually thought that the 2 Cool as Ice, he's got some speed. Last time out, they put the blinkers on him, and I thought that with the 7-pound weight allowance, he actually might get the jump on Nico's on the Run just to his outside. And if you go back and look at his last replay, there was a loose horse in that race. Unfortunately, it made him go a little bit wide, just not really a fluid and comfortable trip. So I'm hoping today for a better outcome, but he's really the only one that I could foresee or even try to pick to beat the heavy favorite.
And Nicky Figueroa having a great meet for himself. I believe it was 3 winners on yesterday's card, so absolutely getting some good horses and getting horses to run for him. So I can certainly understand that. If there is probably some speed, I thought that the 7 Archivero to the outside might stalk a little bit at a price.
Or even the 3 Past the Stars could close if he takes a liking to the main track. We get to the 3rd, going the 1-turn mile onto the main track, the 6250 conditional claimer, and another one where we both land on the 3 Solfatara here for Safi Joseph Jr. And she only has 1 victory at this distance, Acacia, but she looks like she might be the lone speed.
And that's why I landed on her in here as well. But we will show a trainer stat on Safi Joseph Jr. in the past 5 years, going from sprint to route as this horse is stretching out in distance at claiming levels on the dirt. He's 32% win, 58% in the money, and nearly even ROI of 195. And we know that Safi's just been been having such a great time this meet with his horses, maybe first or second off the claim, but he's also good at this move too. And even with the stretch out, the natural speed that she already has, and the lightweight Nikki Figueroa in the saddle, thought she might run away from the field.
Yeah, you look at other horses in here, Valid Wildfire, Grace Quinn, Anna Maddie, all really deep closers in here, and even BL's Wagon and Diana's Comprise. I don't think Diplomatic Affair is that slow. She doesn't have to be as far back, but she did look a little bit pace dependent last time out, and that's where I kind of saw that she was the beaten favorite. But between those two, I think those are probably the two right ones, with that, whichever way you opt for, as we get to the fourth race, a maiden $20,000 event, 7.5 furlongs on the turf. And this was another one. The 5 Mandeville is obviously one that you want to use here, dropping in class for Jorge Navarro.
And she just comes out of a really tough race. We saw the likes of Okinawa, Jaunt in that race. That was a very competitive maiden special weight on the turf in that race. And even the one in her debut at Gulfstream Park West, that horse Sugar and Tea for Bill Mott, the third place finisher that would come back to win at Tampa, she was bet off the board in that race. So she's actually running some pretty solid company. She does have Jose Ortiz in the saddle. It's a very big drop. I was just thinking on class alone, she will be a short price. I kind of like to the outside She Can't Wrestle as a potential upsetter, but I just thought the class might prevail in this spot.
She Can't Wrestle, she actually got into early trouble out of the gate, and she ran very, very well. I just don't know what you do with the outside post. She's been well posted in both of her 2 previous starts, and she did seem to be a little bit rank at certain stages. So I think she's a little bit unpredictable in this race.
And that is why I used her in second. I wasn't about to put her right on top, but I'm curious about Test My Love. For one turf race, certainly was pretty strong.
All right, you ready? Well, Test My Love. We're going to get David Bratty home here and Nick Juarez. 2 starts back, this horse was obviously coming off of a layoff since November, but she was squeezed out of position actually coming out of the gate. She had to kind of suck back after there, and she just moseyed along in the back of the pack. But after that, she looked like she actually had a lot of energy at the quarter pole. She was stuck down on the inside, and she didn't have a lot of breathing room. She checked a couple of times. You can't really see that in the short comments here, but I noticed that, and I do think that she could be a live shot. I mean, you look at the Beyer speed figures too. Mandeville ran a 53 Beyer speed figure last time out, and Test My Love, she ran a 52 with trouble, so I thought she could improve off that.
Absolutely could, and this is the kind of race where you'll have a very short price class dropper and really could set up for kind of anything else to happen. And as I alluded to earlier, I think this is a race you want some coverage in that pick 5.
One race you don't necessarily need coverage in is the next race, and that is race 5, a maiden special weight going 5 furlongs on the turf, as we have a 6-5 morning line favorite. That is the number 2 Exaggerates, and we'll go back and show you the video spotlight replay last time out. Now, he kind of has a little bit of a story to him, right? So last time out, he did draw post 7 of 7, and he breaks well. He actually broke very sharply, and that's why I wanted to show it, because he was acting up very badly in the gate. I was trackside. I remember this. He was rearing up and just not behaving himself in the gate. So I thought that maybe Javier Castellano kept him a little bit wide in order for him to settle. And then after that, he just kind of chased the leaders and then faded from there. He hung in gamely, I guess, but there was no real catching the winners. Spite Swiftly looks like a pretty talented horse here. You can see him swapping leads there too. And I do think the reason why he did that is because he doesn't want to go 2 turns. I love the cutback today.
Me too, and that's why I singled. I love the cutback into the 5 furlongs. I also really like that they added the blinkers, especially with what you were saying by the fact that he was really acting up in the gate prior to the race. And so that might help him just to be a little bit more focused, a little bit more attentive to the task at hand. And I like that he's got some experience under his belt now. I was really intrigued by him actually in his debut. We know that Christophe Clement does do excellent work with maidens on the turf. So maybe now he's got a couple of races and some experience, and all of those things can come together. It does look like he really could fit in this spot.
Yes, I think he has to wrap his head around things. First time out, he was very washed out, very hot. second time out, he acted up in the gate. So maybe the blinkers on will help him take that step forward. Other than him, I would say maybe a first-time starter could upset things, and that might come by way of the 3 Little Chesney. This horse has been entered and scratched twice already, but he's got a nice pedigree. He's actually kin to 3 other turf winners.
He is, and he's by City Zip. It looked like he could be a little bit precocious. He's been working at Palmettos for Carlo Vacarezza, and Jorge Ruiz going to be in the saddle. I just thought, besides that heavy favorite, if you're looking for perhaps any upset, just as you said, maybe a first-time starter might be the one to kind of upset the apple cart.
We could very well see that happen. We'll get to the 6th race, though, and this is a $16,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime event. 7.5 furlongs on the turf, scratch the 1, rediscover, and this actually takes half of our replay out, but Ransack still stays in, and I like this horse for exotic purposes, so we will show you this spotlight replay. Both of these horses actually did get into trouble, but the trouble that Rediscover got in is kind of a moot point now. The 4 Ransack, we can see him kind of down on the inside. Now, mind you, this was when he was trained by Mike Maker. You can see the Ken and Sarah Ramsey colors of the red and white. So he gets into position here going into the first turn, and then the seam kind of closes up on him. We can see Paco Lopez in the saddle just trying to get this horse out of that area, and unfortunately really have to check him badly going into the first turn. After that, it looks like he's actually going to be making a middle move here just before the quarter pole, and then once again getting into more trouble. This was just a troubled trip all throughout. You can see him just kind of being bumped around in between horses, but the big issue here, and we have to address the elephant in the room, right? Although he had a troubled trip last time out, he's going from the Mike Maker barn to a barn that was only 2 for 111 last year.
And yes, that's exactly why I took a little bit of the wait and see. He does come back in just 7 days. It's a quick turnaround from that last race, but maybe he'll be able to overcome some of that trouble. But it was a pretty sizable field and a pretty strong field as well, so maybe you can be a little bit more forgiving. I did land to the outside with the 8 Zarmo, who, to be honest, I'm not in love with in this spot, but looking at potential upsets, I actually really wanted to put the 4 Menehune on top, but I've been burned so many times by that horse that I just put him a little bit further down the ticket. But Zarmo will do it for me today. Last time out, he had a little bit of a troubled trip as well. He got some trouble at the start and then was pretty wide and still managed to be beaten just by half a length. And I just think he's got consistency on his side.
And the one thing that is inconsistent about him is his early speed, though. He kind of goes in and out of showing speed, then not showing speed. So that's where it was kind of confusing with his form. And overall, I think he's a better horse when he can make the lead or at least be close. And with that outside post position, even if he gets off to a poor start, maybe he'll find himself up there. I thought that with his speed, Menehune might be able to be pressed in here. Other than that, you see Parmo Landing is kind of a closer in here. So Opening Remark was just kind of the question mark horse for me. And the fact that he's coming back to the turf and going 2 turns, and the fact that he showed a little bit of speed sprinting 1 turn on the dirt, I thought he could be forwardly placed. And his turf races, they're just a big question mark. They're against Allowance Company, and both of those most recent tries, just a lot of hiccups in them.
He has, and I'll use him in my top 4 as well. I used him for exacta purposes, a horse I'm really intrigued by. I want to give a quick mention to Mr. Sam, who was really tight along the rail last time and was behind a horse that was very rank in front of him and had to tap the brakes a couple times. Horse is kind of stopping in front of him, and I think he wanted to be more forwardly placed. So maybe we're looking in this race basically for horses to get some trouble-free trips, because a lot of them have had trouble in their recent races.
Exactly. That's actually kind of a tough race to start off that middle pick 4 sequence. Maybe you just want to hit the all button and try to find a single later on in the sequence. But we'll take a look at the 7th. We're heading out to the main track at 1 1/8 for this starter allowance optional claimer. And the 4 Rich Daddy was one. First off, the claim for Eddie Keneally. And we don't really see, I think, Eddie Keneally claim kind of low-level claimers that frequently, but this horse obviously has a lot of back class.
He really does. He was beaten as the heavy favorite last time out, 60 cents to the dollar, and he was with Victor Barbosa. Now he goes to the Eddie Keneally barn, and he definitely has back class. He's even running graded stakes company, even trying last year skip away on that sloppy track, and he is a restricted stakes winner as well. So you have to respect him. him. I think you and I both use him in the exacta.
We did, and we'll show a stat, though, for Eddie Keneally first off the claim on the dirt, 25%, but a negative ROI.
It is, and this is what kind of made me use him in the exacta and not use him right on top. He is just $1.21 for the ROI, and it's not the biggest sample size. It's 32 horses, so pretty sizable, and the percentages are good, but just thinking he might be overly bet based off of the connections.
So as an alternative, we both kind of land towards the outside, one of them being the number 8, Social Stranger. Jorge Navarro sending out a lot of horses so far on the program. Maybe he's going to have a big day, but Acacia, what do you like about this horse?
Well, he is stepping up in class, so I know that that's the biggest question, but he won by nearly 7 lengths last time out. Yes, it was against the 6250 claiming types, but what I also think is key for him is that he's got a great record at this distance, and I think that he's got speed and he's got an outside post in here. There is a little bit more speed to the inside, perhaps looking at Donegal Hall or Bama Bound, but I don't know how legitimate their speed might be at this distance or at this level of competition. So taking a guess, looking for a bit of a price, and that runaway win last time out, though it's against a bit tougher, I think even just for the level, I do think that this is a pretty manageable field that he can be successful against.
And I like the 7 Northeast Bound, but he's still a big question mark here. And Dale Romans, his horse was actually entered in yesterday, was scratched out of a turf race and opted for the dirt race today. So in Dale Romans, we trust, right? He's had a great meet thus far. He's batting at 21%. And the main concern here is that his victory 2 starts back. Was it enhanced by the sloppy sealed track, or did he just need the class relief? Because that was the first time dropping down to maybe the lowest level that he's ever faced. So I'm being on the latter side of it, thinking that, yes, he just needed the class relief. And I'm hoping he can get a little bit more forwardly placed. But I did think it was very interesting that Dale Romans opted for this spot.
He had the decision, as you said. We all had, I think, some interest in him yesterday on the turf after that nice turf win against Open Company last time. But he'll try the dirt, and I as you said, respect Dale Romans' decisions, though he is just 1 for 7 on a fast main track. So we'll see how he handles it today.
All right, well, that's races 1 through 7. We will step aside very quickly, and when we come back, we'll talk about the 20-cent Rainbow 6 and that late pick 5 Rainbow 6 guarantee, $1.5 million right after this.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
Saturday, April 1st, witness the country's best 3-year-olds face off in the Grade 1 ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. An epic day of thoroughbred racing. The crowning event of the championship meet. Over $2.5 million on the line. It all comes down to this. The Grade 1 ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. Only at Gulfstream Park. Derby champions start here. Saturday, April 1st, the ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. First race, 12 p.m. Welcome to your playground, Gulfstream Park.
Well, you just saw the commercial. We are 1 week out from the Florida Derby. Very exciting stuff. Of course, the Florida Derby post-draw will be here at Gulfstream. That's at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. So really looking forward to that, but also looking forward to this $1.5 million guaranteed jackpot pool in the 20-cent Rainbow 6. And oddly enough, my ticket, your ticket, and Ron Nicoletti's ticket are all the same prices. I'm interested to see your take, though, on it. $86.40 will be my ticket, and going to be spreading in the first leg here. This is a maiden $50,000 event, so using 4 horses, by 3, just using 2 in the 10th race, by 3, 2 in race 12. Trying to beat Zulu in there, and I think you and I both landed on the same horse for Jimmy Jerkins, and then we get to the finale with just the 7, 8, and the 12. $86.40. Did you have a single, or did you kind of construct it a similar way?
I did not. It was a similar way to you. I believe that the way I did it was maybe a little bit deeper in the first couple of legs, similar to your tactic, and then using just a few later on. I believe Ron spread in the last race, so hopefully
you know why? He wanted to use egg roll.
He did. That's exactly right. He did use egg roll. We know he loves his egg rolls.
And egg roll might be the best horse name ever, which we'll get to that first-time starter in just a bit here. But we started off at 6 furlongs on the main track for this maiden $50,000 event. And we'll start towards the outside here with both Tarpey Zip and Matter of Factor, and go back and show you this replay just from the quarter pole to the finish. And last time out, Matter of Factor actually drew post 12, Tarpey Zip post 4. Outside of him, we can see Matter of Factor is number 3 this day, and he actually broke pretty well, and he managed to secure a position on the lead, whereas Tarpey Zip kind of fell back off of the pace and he was trying to close. We can see Matter of Factor just grinding down the stretch, and I really thought that he did all of the dirty work. Unfortunately, Hodor getting up in just the nick of time. But of this race, though, Acacia, I prefer Matter of Factor because the pace scenario actually set up for Tarpey Zip, and he couldn't deliver.
I totally agree with you. I really prefer him, too. He was very game last time out, talking about Matter of Factor, and he showed speed in between horses early, which I kind of liked that tenacity for him, too. Plus, it was improved speed than he didn't show in his debut. With that drop in class, like that he stays at the maiden 50 level. I will give a little attention to Tarpey Zip, but perhaps giving maybe the top spot to Matter of Factor, but you can't leave off a Todd Fletcher first-time starter on the dirt in Z-Town, even though it's a $340,000 purchase debuting for the tag.
And that's always a negative, but Jose Ortiz in the saddle, he does have a little bit of a lengthy work tab and does run for the tag and as a gelding before his first start after that high purchase price at the sale. So obviously question marks abound, but still they do perform at the maiden claiming level for Todd. And this horse is by Spites down on the bottom side. The mare was a 3-time winner. She actually won on synthetic, and she was a sprinter too, although it did take her a couple starts to finally break her maiden. Other than that, Acacia, you are using the 9 Tarpey Zip. I actually tossed that horse towards the bottom of my ticket. I was kind of interested in the 4 Just the Facts. He dropped in for the tag last time out, but this is the time that he's cutting back in distance, and I like that. And he went against Alex again up at Parks. That horse is actually okay. He ran against Malagasy here against Allowance Company, so I'll give him a little bit of a shot for the trifecta purposes.
And I think I picked him last time on the drop-in class and was just beaten by 14 lengths. So I took a little bit of a wait and see, but certainly agree with you with the cut back in distance. I had a little bit of interest in the 5 El Mundo, first-time starter Freddie Keneally. Perhaps not the strongest move for the barn, but by trap shot. And we'll see if Lasix on the debut, if he does any running first out.
Michael Matt's actually getting yesterday's nightcap, and it's funny you say that because usually when I pick Michael Matt's horses, they lose, and then when I don't, they win. So did hang on for the victory on yesterday's card with Edgar Prado.
When that was, that's just what I was going to say, and that was with Edgar Prado, because I think every single Beat the Expert day, I've been beaten by Edgar Prado at the wire.
He owes you something. I don't know what that is, though, as we get to the 9th race on the card. This does kick off the late pick 5. We've got a $200,000 guarantee in that sequence. Acacia, let's see your ticket.
Okay, well, based it off my Rainbow Six ticket as we were talking earlier, so no sequence for me here. I had to alter a little bit because I did lose Filler Up in the 9th race. He was my top pick and at a price, just using 2 horses to start things off with the 4 and 10. In the 10th race, I'm going to spread, though, using 4 horses in there. That's a pretty nice maiden race on the turf. Just 2 with Who's the Lady and Cursor in the Any Limit. And then using 3, also trying to beat Zulu in the Skip Away. I like Team Colors on top as well. Just 2 in the finale. Nice and affordable, $48.
Okay, I like it. And we do have a scratch of the 1 Filler Up. We're starting this pick 5 furlongs on the turf for this maiden $20,000 event. And I believe you liked Filler Up, so you landed on the 10 instead here.
I did. Well, it's funny because I actually put this horse 5th, and I didn't want to default into the 4B and Daddy's Song. While I do respect this filly, I just couldn't put her on top because she's just kind of, in my mind, had some races where she probably should have won already and just hasn't been able to just yet. So I went to the outside, as I said, with the horse that I had in 5th and had a little bit of interest in, just based off of the class drop. Trying the turf for the first time. The Dam did win twice on turf, and it actually is kin to a multiple stakes winner who was 0 for 2 on the turf, but a little bit of breeding there. Sometimes we've seen in summations be able to run, and she gets Lasix off the layoff.
I think she's actually kin to Phyllis Ann, who was an 8-time winner on the turf, so that's why I liked her, because there was a little bit of turf influence on the bottom side. In summation, sometimes it's feast or famine, whether or not they like the turf or not, but it was a she has similar form as Michael Matt's filly, who won yesterday.
First.
Yes. Yes, Verse, that was it in the last race yesterday, because it was a drop-in class and then a first-time turf switch with a little bit of pedigree. So I kind of took the same approach on the 10 Holters Girl here. But Better Be Fast, I think she's actually the horse to beat. She showed a lot of speed. She draws a great post position given her running style, and she was beaten by Mojo's Queen in her lone turf try. Mojo's Queen was actually dropping from Maiden Special Weight Company.
And I think that there'll be a little bit of speed from Wildcat Wave as well, but I do think that Better Be Fast is faster. Now, last time out, she can be a little bit forgiven because it was the sloppy track. I thought her turf race was strong in that competition, as you mentioned.
All right, we'll get to the 10th race on the card. This is a maiden special weight. We're heading out to the turf at 7.5 furlongs. For the late pick 4, we've got a $250,000 guarantee in the late pick 4. And I think the one Secretary at War not only is well posted today, but also should really thrive off of the cutback in distance.
I really like the cutback too, and he just comes out of very strong races. In the debut race, without the blinkers, we saw him finishing behind Dover Cliffs and Snap Decision, both of whom would come out to win their next starts. Dover Cliffs with an 86 Buyer speed figure and Snap Decision with an 85, who then went on to be third in the Grade 3 Palm Beach. And then last time out, we also saw some really nice runners in there in the likes of Bricks and Mortar and Brooklyn Bobby, and then saw French Command come out to win his next race, dropping in class. So some really strong races, cut back in distance, rail post, Jose Ortiz, that'll do it on top for me.
And I agree with all of those sentiments. The 6 Storm Team, I guess, would be the other horse, but he's stretching out to 2 turns today from 2 5-furlong sprints, and you have to kind of although he's coming out of good races and good performances, is he kind of a closing or just stalking turf sprinter? Does he like to go 2 turns? There were some questions, although Mongo Nation, of course, an impressive winner coming back and getting an 81 Buyer speed figure for his most recent victory.
Yes, that was a nice race from Mongo Nation on I believe it was Thursday it was, and his 2 races from Storm Team have been very strong, but I thought the same thing as you. He's just untested at the 2 turns as of yet. He certainly could win in this field, but I almost put him on top, but just going with the proven commodity, and as we mentioned, all of those good things about Secretary at War.
Keeping it quiet, the number 2 horse, a first-time starter for Todd Pletcher by Medaglia d'Oro. On the bottom side, this horse is actually akin to Quiet Meadow, a multiple graded stakes placed horse going long on the turf. So pedigree on the bottom side, although the mare, she did prefer the dirt. I thought that horse was probably a must-use. I have confidence in the 1, so actually on my pick 6 ticket, just starting with just holding to those 2 horses towards the inside with the 1 and the 2. We get to the 11th race, though, and this does kick off our stakes action, the Any Limit. This does also kick off the final pick 3 of the day. We're going 6 furlongs onto the main track, and we wanted to go back and show you first and foremost a race that several horses come out of, and Who's the Lady got the better of all of them. This was back on the 8th of March when Who's the Lady and Truge and Faith and Hope, they all faced each other, and we can see Who's the Lady actually breaking sharply as she always does and making the lead here and getting that tactical advantage. She did draw the rail post position, so she was at advantage from the post position first and foremost. And here she is very impressive, but I thought this was a huge performance from Truge, and maybe it set up for her, maybe it didn't set up for Who's the Lady, and Who's the Lady obviously tenacious there to the wire, but I thought with a couple more strides, Truge might have gotten up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And there are a couple things I like about Who's the Lady, and maybe a couple things that I don't like about some of the other horses in this field, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I really think that Who's the Lady could be the lone speed in here again. And I had questions about her last time in that field, and she did prove tenacious enough to win again. Now, I guess maybe the con of that would be is that her win 2 starts back was so impressive. She got an 80 Buyer speed figure, and then last time out, she did regress to a 67. So maybe that's something to just kind of proceed with a little bit of caution. I'm not singling her in here, but as I said, I do think that she could be the lone speed. Faith and Hope is usually forwardly placed, but I don't think she's as fast early as Who's the Lady. And Who's the Lady, I mean, she's 3 for 3 so far. She hasn't really done anything wrong as of yet.
She really hasn't. She's undefeated, and the only possible speed types in here could be Mia to the outside. She's shown speed, and maybe Faith and Hope. She might just have to go from the rail. She might not have another option, but Who's the Lady might just be classy enough to either stalk, which she has done before, or just turn back those challengers. But she does have a main foe in here, and that is the 6 Cursor, who has run faster numbers really in all of her races as a 2-year-old. She's making her 3-year-old debut today, and we'll go back and show you her maiden special weight victory. This was 2 starts back at Belmont. Now, mind you, this was over the fall. This was in October, the early October, and she was just an absolute runaway winner. She was 65 cents of the dollar. She was supposed to win this race, but she came back and finished a good 4th behind Miss Sky Warrior, who's on the path to potentially the Kentucky Oaks. She most recently won the Devona Dale. So all good things about this filly. She looks very classy, and she's not that slow. So lots of things to like. I actually prefer her out of this race.
I definitely respect her, and I'll use both of those horses in those multi-race sequences. But we will show a stat on trainer Mark Hennig in the past 5 years. After a 61 to 180 day layoff going from route to sprint, it is just 2 for 23 and a negative ROI. I kind of prefer her going a little bit longer, and maybe she will be able to sprint, maybe she will be able to go shorter, and maybe her class will just help her to prevail in this field. But I was proceeding with a little bit of caution, and I talked about how I think that Who's the Lady just might be the fastest out of the gate.
I do agree that I think Cursor might use this as maybe a platform to stretch out to distances, but that stat's actually majority of turf races, and if you kind of hone into 61 to 180 day layoff sprinting on the dirt, 26% and a positive ROI of $2.30. So it kind of flip-flops whichever way you look at it. That sometimes is the issue with stats, but Cursor I do think is the fastest horse in the race, so I couldn't go against her, but that doesn't mean that she has to win. Obviously, I think that it's a pretty potent field here in the Any Limit. But we'll turn the page to the 12th race on the card, and we're going 1 1/8 onto the main track. This is the Grade 3 skip away. And Zulu, well, I don't know what to do with poor Zulu. We'll go back to his race 2 starts back in the Tamarack. This was off of a layoff since Keeneland. And Acacia, we got to go back and talk about this race because I think people will bet him off of this race and say how impressive it was. But he had an absolutely dream trip, pressing to the outside, stalking, what have you. And the lone speed in that race, who was the #1 horse, stumbled out of the gate, fell to his face, and it just set up perfectly for him.
It did, and you bring up an excellent point. Zulu was bet down 50 cents to the dollar. Has to be off of his back class. The fact that he finished behind Mohaymen in the Fountain of Youth, finishing 2nd, and then disappointed in the Bluegrass. They put him on the layoff. He came back in that overnight stake, and as you said, it was just a perfect setup for him, and he did not deliver at all in the Gulfstream Park Handicap last time. He stretches out to even more distance now to the 1 1/8, and so far his best races have really come sprinting too. I mean, the Fountain of Youth was a solid performance, but there was no beating Mohaymen. It was Mohaymen and everybody else in that field. So I will use him. It was a perfect trip for him in the Tamarack, but I just couldn't put him on top today.
That's the thing. You bring up a great point. Does he really want to go 9 furlongs on the dirt? And I think I talked to Todd Pletcher a couple starts back. It's all meshing together this entire winter meet. But he actually said
We've
that...
We've talked to Todd a lot.
Yeah, we have, about a lot of different horses. But I believe he said that he likes Zulu going longer, that he thinks that Zulu will like going longer. But I don't know. The only 2 times, like you said, 1 1/16 and 9 furlongs in the Bluegrass, he just kind of seemed to be even or even fade. So that's where Team Colors jumps in here today. And you must admit that a lot of his turf performances are better than his dirt performances. And the last time we saw him on the dirt, it was disappointing.
It was disappointing, but that was kind of a weird race as well. Tommy Macho had a actually very poor trip and still ended up winning that race. And we saw Birdsong come out and win nicely after that. So a little bit of a funky setup in there. And it was off of a 9-month layoff for him as well. He was actually second in last year's skip away behind Valid. That was on a sealed sloppy track, though I will admit that. And it's interesting to note that even looking at his races overseas, he has run well on both surfaces, but his race overseas that he won was actually on the synthetic, on the all-weather track, as opposed to on the turf. So interesting to see where he really is better, and I suppose today will be telling for him. But we'll show a stat on trainer Jimmy Jerkins in the past 5 years, going from turf to dirt with horses that were in the money last time out. It's not the biggest sample size, size, and it is kind of feast or famine, but 47% win, 53% in the money, and it's an excellent ROI, probably some big prices in there, and you will probably get a much better price on team colors than you will on Zulu.
I agree, and I'm a big fan of Jimmy Jerkins, especially lately with Unified and a Shaman Ghost. Just every horse that he's conditioned, especially at the stakes or graded stakes level. So have faith with the 6 team colors, and I thought that that was an alternative to the favorite. The 2 Flashy Jewel, well, he's got speed, and he's been in actually very good form lately. I just don't know if he is at the level of Zulu in team colors.
That's kind of why I used him a little bit lower. He certainly will be the speed, especially with that inside post. And the 3 Fear the Cowboy, he's been running in some stakes company. I don't know if it's perhaps, again, as strong as company as some of the other classy horses in this field.
All right, what do you say we get to the last race on the card?
Sounds like a plan.
13th and final, we're going 7.5 furlongs on the turf. This is a maiden special weight event and Game Factor, another heavy favorite, 8 to 5 on the morning line, and wanted to show you his first performance, his first and only performance last time out. That was on the 12th of February, and overall, I thought a good performance. You could see him kind of being asked by the rider. This was Tyler Gaffleone. Just before the quarter pole, he had to go about 3 or 4 wide coming around the final turn, and he just looks like he's trying to get past the other horses, but unfortunately Conquest Hard Candy just got the better of him by a length.
30 to 1 shot wiring the field that day, and there would be no catching Conquest Hard Candy in there. We've seen Progeny of the Factor being pretty precocious as well, and I thought it was a solid performance from Game Factor. I'm not singling him in here, and we will show a stat on trainer Christophe Clement in the past 5 years on the turf, with maidens making their second start in special weight company, being in the money last time out. The percentages are great. He's 27% win, 71% of the time in the money. It is a negative ROI, 176. I do expect this filly to take a lot of money today, and I do think that there are perhaps some other alternatives, but I just thought that she was coming in off of the strongest race, and Juno Moon is a really intriguing one because I looked at this horse for a really long time. Her turf start, she had some trouble in there.
She did have a lot of trouble, and she was very wide, but I do think that, and this is always an angle I play, usually when you get to the late fall in Kentucky, or really anywhere, that turf season isn't year-round, the turf does get a little bit questionable, and some horses really like it, some don't. I don't think she necessarily preferred it. She was pushed wide going into the first turn, then she was green coming down the stretch, she was wide before the stretch, and if you note, if you go back to the runners in the race, a horse that finished 7th in there, Proctor's Ledge, she came back here to win an A other than. She got an 84 by her speed figure for that. So it's actually produced some legitimate horses. So I'm thinking with the firm going today, she's bred to like the turf. I'm going to give her another shot for Bill Mott.
She certainly could. Bill Mott having a couple in here, including that first-time starter, the 9 Egg Roll that we were talking about. She's by Kitten's Joy, and the dam was multiple graded stakes winner, 12-time winner on the turf. Maybe haven't seen many first-time starters fire. I also looked at the firster in the 1 Goldwood with a nice work tab for Alan Goldberg.
And that was a tongue twister.
It was.
Alan Goldberg. But the 12 Silver Shaker, I had to use this horse on the pick 6.
So
you can't leave off a first-time starter coming out of the Chad Brown barn. Although this horse is a half to Preterio, who was more so a dirt horse, is kin to a turf winner as well. Just kind of an unfortunate post position for first-time starter. But that's it. I think I'm out of breath. I think you might be too. That's races 1 through 13. We will step aside, and Pete Aiello will be up next with those scratches and changes. A reminder, Dubai World Cup will be shown here at 12:45 p.m. And of course, we do have those really nice guaranteed pools later today. So best of luck, and thank you for joining us here on Gulfstream today.
We have to take care of these horses that, give us so much joy.
Being accredited